Hello, a very warm welcome to Fireside Chats. I am Magela Pillai, and today I have an experienced meditator who has been practicing Rajyoga Meditation for a number of years in the studio with me, and her name is Sister Denise. Today's topic is entitled The World of Ideas. In this show, we look at a variety of topics surrounding spirituality. We also look at how spirituality affects you as an individual, how it affects your mind, your heart, the way you formulate your thoughts and your experiences. We also look at one's relationship with God, how to understand God better, deeper, and how to experience God in a way that makes him or her real for you. So a very warm welcome to today's show. And Sister Denise, a very warm welcome today to you as well.
Thank you.
The world of ideas. Relate this topic with us to spirituality.
Well, I'm thinking of something that was said by Daddy Janki, which stuck with me. She said that there's a special group of people who talk about ideas, high-level people, and then middle-level people, they talk about events, and low-level people talk about people. So I thought, this is something quite interesting for us to look at. Am I operating as a low-level person, a middle-level person, or a high-level person? So everybody wants to be as high as possible, right? So if I say, okay, I want to be a high-level person, then it means I need to think about and talk about ideas, and not just any old ideas, but maybe you'd want to say thoughts that have significance, thoughts that are meaningful, thoughts that carry you to a space of realness, to a space of higher thinking. So I was remembering this.
The world of ideas seems to be an aspect of creativity, and not everyone is creative. How do you, using your spiritual understanding, develop your own sense of creativity?
One of the things I learned and experienced quite soon after I learned how to meditate was that normally you want to write, you sit in front of a blank white piece of paper or a blank computer screen and you go blank. Or somebody says, well, give me some ideas, and nothing comes. So there is a lot of struggle that happens to people who are, either requiring themselves or required by other people to produce something creative. But when I learned to meditate, you go inside, you go into deep silence, and there is where a wellspring of ideas starts to produce, and then you just, put them forth. There they are. It really changes everything when you learn to go into silence. That's where the ideas come from.
Now, when you refer to silence, you refer to the mental silence, not just not saying anything.
Yes, of course, mental silence.
Okay.
Yeah.
When us mere mortals attempt to go into any form of silence, the first thing you become aware of is the chaos that's in your inner world, the conflicts, the carrying of your excess baggage, your addiction to your past, your fantasizing about your future, and all of it is in a cauldron of thoughts that's in the mind. This is in addition to the sensory thoughts that are presenting themselves in the mind. So how are you able to quieten all of that?
Well, this is the thing. With all of that going on, it means the energy of the mind is really getting, used up meaninglessly. So you never really generate that kind of substantial power of thought that you need. So there are concepts that we work with for meditation. And the practice involves looking inside and seeing what is going on in your mind, and if it's garbage, stop. So you learn to have much less going on. You know, you're remembering something that happened, and then you say, okay, I remembered it once, I don't need to remember it 50 times, once is enough. So when you start doing that, you start to sort of waste your mental energy substantially less, and eventually you really stop wasting it altogether. And so the silence in the mind comes more easily, more readily, and then the quality of your thought, the energy of your thought is held better. One of the things we also learn to do is to conserve the energy of the mind, so that then when you want your mind to produce a new idea, you know, you haven't been abusing it, so it is more ready. And so out of the silence, the mind will, you know, offer up its treasures, and then that can be turned into action in the material world. So this is a very, very important skill to learn.
So Denise, is there a link between creativity and dexterity? The reason I ask this is because a lot of people are good with their hands and others are not. What is the connection between the two, if any?
I would think that there is a connection, because your hands are instruments. And I mean, a musician has to develop the muscles in the fingers to play the instrument through practice. But what you do with your fingers, it really is very much to do with the mind, because in your mind you have this idea what you want to create or what you want to accomplish, and you hold that idea, and the soul gets the fingers to act according to the idea. And I think that's where the dexterity comes. If you never really work with your mind visually to create something that you want to make practically, physically, you never really develop those skills. And I think in many ways you will do that from childhood. And I think, there are some children, they have lots and lots of toys, so they never really need to play with sticks and stones and leaves and grass and whatever. But those who actually play with and make their own toys and play with whatever is there, I think they're ahead when it comes to acquiring that dexterity and that creativity, because it's sort of automatic from your early childhood.
The ability to formulate ideas that are of use to you and of mankind is a gift. How does one preserve the gift?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I think we have a lot of gifts, and if you're calling it a gift, a talent, you need to say, well, if it's a gift, then who gave it? And of course, ultimately, these are gifts from God. And so then they cannot be used incorrectly, or they cannot be used, for example, if you say this is mine, and you deny that it's a gift, you'll sort of lose it. If you say it's my gift, I can do whatever I want with it, you'll lose it. But if you say, no, this is a gift, it's given by God, so it can only be used in a way that God would want it to be used, I think that's the very best way, not only to preserve it, but also to cause it to get enhanced and developed and cultivated.
So Denise, you describe the mind as an instrument that one can use. You also describe it as something one can abuse. How does one teach oneself not to abuse? Because we have become so externally directed. I once heard you use the expression an externalized mind. We focus almost the entire day on our cell phones and tablets and televisions, and if it's not that, it's people and places and things. So how does one teach oneself not to use the mind in a way that harms the mind, and in that way suppress one's natural creativity?
Well,
okay, sorry, before you answer that, I'd like you to tell us, what do you mean by abusing the mind? Because this is a fairly new concept.
You abuse your body, you abuse people by being violent, by using it for some sort of a vice, you know. And there are qualities that are godlike, and if you say to yourself, okay, now self, what do I want to be doing? And in Raj Yoga, a lot of importance is given to the idea of doing what we call world service, trying to do something, be something, say something which is of benefit to the whole world without any limits, you know, so that you're not limiting it to your family, your town, your country, your religious group, but really for humanity. That's a very important aim. And so then when a thought comes up in your mind, you know, you will look and see, you know, is this of benefit for humanity? If so, sustain it. But, you know, we have all sorts of thoughts coming up in the mind. And Raj Yoga means to be very conscious. What are the thoughts coming up in my mind? And if they're not pure, if they're not positive, if they're not of benefit, then do not entertain those thoughts. I mean, anything will come up, but then it's up to us. Will I entertain it? Will I receive that thought? Will I sustain that thought? Or will I say, no, go away, you know? So the mind produces all these thoughts, but then there's another part of the consciousness we call the intellect, which says, yes, you're good, or no, we don't want you, go down.
So within when it comes to the subject of creativity and creative thinking, not all the ideas that you have can be implemented. There are some ideas that just stay as ideas. Once you receive an idea which you can put into practice, how do you know which ideas you can implement, and how do you know which ideas you can't?
Again, it connects with your power of discernment, your power of discrimination. There is this concept of the drama. So the drama is whatever is going on. It throws up opportunities, obstacles. Sometimes it becomes a desert where nothing's happening at all. You can't get anything to happen. So an idea comes into your mind. You say, yeah, that's a good idea. You have to kind of check it against the drama and see, is this also something that seems to fit with what the drama is telling at this time? Because you have to line everything up before you can actually cause something to happen. And what we experience is, if it's not the right time, then your idea, which may be the right idea, but it has to be also the right time. So if it's not the right time, you can't get it to happen. There's no point forcing it. So at that time, you have to just hold off, bear the idea in mind, maybe let it mature, and let the circumstances move until it sort of fits. And you also have to get the other people, the other minds, to gel with the idea. And there is this expression, you know, an idea whose time has come. it'll just happen very easily. And so this is a very helpful thing which other people don't know. They have a great idea, they want to force it, there's so much resistance, they get upset because nobody liked their ideas. So we have learned that you have to just be patient. It's not the right time. And when the time comes, you have to do it. And there are also, in another sense, there'll be a kind of circumstance in the drama which will sort of throw a ball in your court, and you have to quickly come up with an idea because it's demanding that, okay, you're a producer of ideas, produce one now. And then if you have your silence at hand, you can go in there and produce one out of the hat, as it were. Yeah.
I'm thinking again of Rudyard Kipling and that line, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim. We discussed this before, but in an entirely different context. If one is gifted with the ability to be creative, should one have a practical element to it? Do you develop your practical side, or do you just continually just churn ideas? Because ideas come to you for a reason. It could be creativity in respect of your personal life, your professional life, your spiritual life. How does one maintain the balance between that level of thinking and being practical here on earth?
Well, I think it's a very fortunate thing if a person is a generator of ideas and you're able to bring it into practical form, because there are some people, they just generate ideas, and there are other people, they need ideas and they'll do it. But I think it's really nice if you can generate the idea and put it into practical form, because that's really the flow of creativity. The inspiration comes and you make it happen, and then it goes out into the world. I think it's very important not to, as it were, lay claim to it. Nowadays, artists always sign their work, but if you look at ancient statuary or whatever, you never find any artist signing anything. It's as if creativity is something that belongs to the Creator, God the Creator, and you become a vessel for it, an instrument for it, but it's not good to say, this is mine.
I once heard the expression, at the bottom of any park or garden, or even at the ocean, you'd never find God's signature, because nobody else makes oceans and parks and gardens except God. So that falls in line with what you just said.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the idea of being a co-creator with God is nice. When you say, this is mine, and there's a price on it and all this stuff, it changes the quality of the thing, you know.
Denise, in one's mind, one has thoughts that are both positive and negative. You have creative ideas that are beneficial for you and others, and conversely, ideas that are harmful to you and others. What is the price you pay for using your creativity against the self and against humanity?
Well, this is your karma, right? I mean, you may come up with all kinds of horrible ideas about all the horrible things you're going to do to somebody, and if you make that a practical reality, you pay a very high price. But every action, positive or negative, arises in the mind. And what a meditator will pay attention to is to always generate pure, positive, useful, beneficial thoughts. So eventually the situation where the jumble of positive, neutral, negative, good, bad, indifferent changes, and you have much more of a generation of ideas, thoughts that are really positive and that line up with your relationship with God, your relationship of love for humanity. And then anytime anything ugly does come, it's so obvious, it's so dissonant that you instantly notice it and instantly get rid of it. But I think if people have all sorts of stuff going on, they wouldn't even do the work of classifying the thoughts, and then a lot of negative stuff happens because they never really bothered to realize how harmful, how expensive, how much of an interference it is in a person's happiness.
On a previous episode, you described to us the line of karma and the consequences at every juncture. So if you have a creative thought and somebody else implements it, at some point you also will be paying a price for that thought, won't you?
Well,
or not. I thought that you articulated and said to people, you know, this is what I'm thinking, how this should be done. And
well, I think if it's a creative thought and you give an idea and somebody does it, you get your share of the benefit, definitely, yes, yes, of course. And conversely, if you have an idea that's very harmful and somebody takes that up, you will also be penalized.
There are individuals who were creative as children, but they were criticized, they were physically assaulted, and they were told that their gift is of no value and no use. In other words, their gifts were suppressed by the people around them, and as a result they chose not to express that part of their personality because of negative feedback. How does one, with a suppressed sense of creativity for whatever reason, re-emerge it later in your adult life when it's safe to do so? It's not just about the creativity, it's about respecting the fact that you were a creative person whose creative side was shut off.
Yeah, I think that this is quite a tragedy, and it does happen to a lot of people. And I also think that that creative side will remain frozen and in abeyance until that person becomes spiritually awakened and starts to gather together their strength and return to their sort of pre-traumatized state, if you will, before the wings of that creative bird can unfurl and start flying. And I think in a lot of cases it never happens, so it's a great tragedy.
And can one heal from that?
Well, I think that anyone who starts to build their inner life and develop their spirituality is also doing something of a healing for themselves. And when they reach a certain point, then that creativity is able to fly and emerge and produce the beauty that it was always intended to do. So yes.
Okay, Sister Denise, how does God fit into this picture? Is God creative? Does God have ideas floating in his psyche that he implements directly or indirectly?
It seems to me, and even God will say, I am the ocean of knowledge, and I have the sanskaras of the knowledge of the Creator and the creation. So as soon as God becomes active and speaks, then all those ideas come out through the instrument that he will use, and there they are. And these are then what we call Shrimat, the pure instructions, the pure directions, the pure ideas. And so anyone who picks those up and starts to implement them, they will be, in a way, acting as the hands and feet of God, you know. So that's a very good thing.
Okay. We've come to the end of today's show. Is there any last thoughts you'd like to leave the audience with before we say goodbye to you?
I think very important to take responsibility for your thoughts. You know, sometimes people think nobody knows what I'm thinking, it doesn't matter, it's not yet a karma until it's been done. but it is. So taking responsibility is good.
Okay, so we say goodbye to you today, and thank you so much for sharing. There you go, the world of ideas, which implies one's creative side. Sister Denise has shared how one can emerge one's own sense of creativity, whether you believe that you are a creative person or not. She explained to us the difference between being creative and being dexterous, the ability to use your hands for a creative gift. And she also shared how one can heal from a past where you were told that your sense of creativity had no validity. I think the most beautiful note that Sister Denise ended this talk with is how to bring God into one's creative process. So I do wish you luck on your spiritually creative journey. Thank you so much for joining us, and goodbye.